Hello everybody, my name is Mathas and welcome to a video I've been planning on doing for a while now. I just haven't really found the time to do it purely because I've been busy with a lot of other things. Before we get into it, I just want to kind of clarify saying this is not going to be gameplay of Dwarf Fortress. In fact, this is going to be something a little bit different. One of the things that I love about my job, and one of the reasons I even started doing YouTube as a hobby in general, is because I absolutely adore sharing this passion of mine. It's something that I used to be able to do when I was younger with my friends when I was a kid, just sit around, geek out, talk about video games. And as you get older, for some of us that tends to disappear because your friends move away, you move away, jobs get in the way of the ample free time you used to have as a child, as a kid. So I kind of created YouTube with the idea of absolutely sharing this passion and nerding out with you about cool things in the video gaming universe that got me into what I love today. And that's exactly what I'm doing with this video. I'm nerding out with you guys about why I love Dwarf Fortress, even though I don't play Dwarf Fortress, which is really weird. And if you want to see some awesome Dwarf Fortress play, you can check out Quill18. He's a good friend of mine, and he plays a lot of Dwarf Fortress on his stream, and he uploads it to YouTube. You can check it out. For me, I'm purely doing this because I want to share this game with you. Maybe you don't know about it. Maybe you know a little bit about it. Hell, maybe you know a lot about it, and you just want to hear and nerd out and dork out with me. So, a lot of the games I like to play are survival games. RimWorld is a big example that clearly takes a lot of its inspiration from Dwarf Fortress. Dwarf Fortress is a game that is in alpha. It's version 0.40.24, and it's been in development for 10 plus years by two people, Tarn and his brother Zach. They've been making this game. It's been a passion project of theirs for a super long time, and they operate purely off of community donations. That's how they fund this project. And it kind of shows that this is a 10-year-old game in the making because it's so deep. It has a lot of systems going on. But it is the grandfather of survival simulation god sim type games where, in RimWorld, your whole idea is people are interacting with each other. These people crash land on a planet. They have to make a base. They have likes and dislikes, and they work with each other in weird ways, and random things happen as you try to survive. And it's very Dwarf Fortress in that respect. But Dwarf Fortress has so much more going on the bottom level. The thing that I wish RimWorld had, but it would take a lot more time, is a world history. Dwarf Fortress builds a world from the ground up. And this is particularly what I want to nerd out about with you guys, is what Dwarf Fortress is capable of doing. So the way RimWorld works, right? We're constantly going to use RimWorld as an example purely because it's something I've played recently. It's probably the most recent game on my channel that's similar to this. So we're going to kind of refer to it in a way. RimWorld will create a very basic planet, right? It has the north is cold, the south is hot, the middle's pretty temperate, and it kind of randomly places the world around in a pretty believable way, right? The world is pretty believable in the way it's constructed. There's no history with the world. There's no wars that have ravaged. It's kind of just this planet that has pirates on it, and you need to survive and build a ship and get off. And for what it is, for what RimWorld is going for, it makes sense. It's a Rim world that has maybe no history. Pirates have settled on it for the most part. There's some ancient alien tech going on there, but it hasn't really been fully kind of explored. And the stuff that happens to you is random. And the survivors, the colonists themselves, interact with each other on a basic level, but a lot of it is pretty superficial for the most part, right? What Dwarf Fortress does, and we're gonna do this in a minute, and I apologize for taking so long to get to it, but I kind of want to build on it, is create a world from the ground up. And I did a little research on how exactly they create the world. So what Dwarf Fortress does is it creates a world in a way that let me just pull up an article and I'm going to read exactly how it creates the world so you understand the depth of which the simulation in this game goes. So I'm going to cut for a second so I can pull up the article and I'll be right back. Okay, so I pulled up an article about a year ago. Polygon did a bunch of stuff on Dwarf Fortress because Dwarf Fortress is seeing a pretty major update and it made news and people were excited about it. So I'm just going to read pretty much word for word what Polygon has written. So if you want to check it out, I'll have the Polygon link in the description below so you guys can go check it out yourself. They did a bunch of stuff on it. But I want you to understand just the depths at which Dwarf Fortress goes in order just to create the landmass that you'll be playing on. So the software first calls into existence an area about twice the size of New Jersey. The software then throws it out, keeps generating 16,000 square mile chunks of land, and each one 250 miles thick until it gets the right distribution of elevations. They're looking for just the right amount of high points and low points to make the place interesting to play in. This is all being done by simulation when you hit create world, by the way. This is just to keep the shape of everything, obviously. Over the years, they've developed intricate process to simulate eons of complex geological time, a way of stacking fractal layers and blending them with algorithms to give life to each world. The first layer plots the annual rainfall of each map location. So wrap your head around that. When it's creating the world, it is plotting annual rainfall in areas of the world. Then a separate layer simulates the deposition of mineral elements throughout the underground strata, which is the underground of the world, giving the land itself a kind of texture, which is cool. A temperature layer, or fractal, is generated and rough biomes emerge as contiguous tiles on the map that contain a subset of closely related flora and fauna. Alright, I'm going to go through that with you so you understand what is going on. So, outside of annual rainfall, minerals, and all this other stuff, it then creates temperature fractals, temperature areas around the world that then it generates a rough biomes emerge. So because of temperatures of certain areas, certain biomes will emerge around the world because say it's really rainy and really hot, we'll assume it's like a jungle biome would end up showing up there. And then because that biome exists, closely related flora and fauna will show up in its respective zones. So that makes sense, right? The order here is important, they say, because in the next step, drainage, Dwarf Fortress begins to simulate the complex forces of erosion. Only after the biomes have been created can the rivers run, slashing deep valleys as they flow toward unnamed oceans. When they finally meet the sea, if I get the words out, a salinity algorithm kicks in to define the areas for swampy river deltas, alluvial islands, and mangrove swamps. So the game then begins to process which way the waters would flow. Years of water flowing creates these chasms. Rivers are formed. They all meet the ocean. And through all of that, other biomes are created. Swamps, islands, groves. It's crazy. And all this is being simulated when it creates the world. To me, that's insane. Like, that is crazy that a game can do that, and it's one of the reasons I'm so enamored with this game. But that's only the surface. That's only scratching the surface of how this game generates a world. At one point, this is where the world stopped, but not anymore. All right, so in his research for the game, Adams, he's one of the developers, learned that in the real world, when warm and wet air travels up the side of a mountain, it loses moisture. Rain precipitates out, creating areas like rainforests, snow-capped peaks. On the other side of the mountain, deserts form in areas that are called rain shadows. So, the developer built a custom algorithm that simulates rain shadows in Dwarf Fortress, and if you watch carefully, you can see it. The whole map will shudder and shift just for a moment. All the biomes suddenly snap, a dramatic shift from east to west, some shrink, others expand, deserts appear out of nowhere. That's the rain shadows kicking in. So it'll create everything, and then the simulation for rain shadows kick in, and then it'll determine where deserts are supposed to be and whatnot. In the future, The developer hopes to add plate tectonics. When he does, entire regions of the map will be able to cleave against one another to create fissures or smash into and over each other to become mountains, which is nuts. All right, so that's crazy. That's like creating the world itself, right? And that alone is insane. And it goes on to talk about how CPU intensive it is, which is crazy. So let's go to this point. We've already created it. So after the world has been created, right? After the map is locked and stopped, the game assigns a kind of energy, and I'm reading word for word off this article, to each region, ranging from good to evil on a scale of 1 to 20. It then uses the positive and negative energy of each area to generate place names. The ocean of Muting sits along the edge of the jungles of Mire near the Ivory Hills, and on and on and on, creating hundreds of uniquely named regions. So it assigns good and evil energies that are some more good than others, some more evil than others, and then they start naming the regions of the world. But what's cool about this, and this is, again, insane, these are just the names as translated for the player. Each area of the map has been named by one of 4 cultures. Human, Dwarven, Elvish, and Goblin languages are actually programmed into the game, and all 4 of them have different names for the regions of the world. Eventually, he hopes that the game will be able to procedurally generate languages as part of the world creation, which is just that blows my mind. So there are evil words and good words in each language, and it chooses the names based on those and obviously the energies and whatnot. The dwarf language will be used to naming things that have more artifice, and the elf language will have name things more according to nature, essentially. But that, again, is still only scratching the surface. Then it places little things all over the world, like caves and monsters and starting points of civilizations. And after that, it gets way more complicated. So like I said, all of that is just the beginnings of how the world is created. We've already gone through how the world itself is created, and from the ground up, like actually how the land is created, and then how things our biomes are created, constructed, and then things are named based on the energy of good versus evil. That's the easy stuff, all right? Then, once all the little stuff is created, caves and monsters, and in the starting point for civilizations, that's when the fun things start. The thing that all that is mind-blowing, and I love it. But for me, the cool part is what's next. The next part is the world's history begins to play out in front of your eyes. The world starts to create its own history. And on its base level, like default world settings, it's 250 years of history. You can tweak that to a shorter history or a longer history. The world's history begins to play out 1 week at a time for 250 years. 250 years starts getting simulated weekly within the game. Towns will grow and flourish, only to expand into the wild and conflict with their neighbors. Leaders rise to create dynasties, which then will fall into ruin. And you can watch it all happen. Hundreds of thousands of creatures live and die in seconds as little more than flickering ASCII shapes. That's the part that gets me. That's the part that has always had me so fascinated in this game. Leaders, people, lives are being simulated for 250 years in this game. Civilizations are simulated and rise. Leaders have their own wants and needs, and they rule these people. They expand their civilizations. If they expand too much, they collapse into ruin. They go into war with other civilizations, and those wars can last 100 years, 200 years, maybe less, maybe more. They can wipe each other out. One can dominate and take over an entire region of a country. Maybe a leader dies who was a warmonger, and a peaceful leader takes place, and they try and make peace. All of this happens. And it's not just like it happens and it's done, like the game randomly generates the history. No, these, like, that's another thing that blows my mind. Games can just randomly generate a history and say all these things happened, whatever. This game actually simulates all of that, creating history of this fantasy world in front of your eyes. That's nuts. So then they, of course, will go into further. They have their farms that all go on this yearly cycle and give them actual food numbers. when you see a city shrink down in size, the people have either moved away or, I'm getting so excited I'm hiccuping and burping at the same time. If you see a city shrink in size, people have moved away or they ran out of food. Every object that is made is tracked. Every single object in this game is tracked. It exists somewhere in the world, which I'm going to get back to here in a minute and why that's super impressive. For instance, the good example, actually, when you travel to certain cities in the game and speak to a merchant, they might tell you that their leather caps are made in an elvish city half a world away. And it will be true. They really were made during world creation and traveled to this market that you can eventually buy. That's nuts. And one of the developers says that's just a trade system. There's the whole diplomacy and war thing going on as well. Civilizations make very simple decisions about what they want to do. They just look at some population numbers and where they are and so on. The personalities of the different rulers are all determined in advance. The game refers to a matrix of 50 different character traits that, when balanced, each individual's personal and cultural values aims to simulate their thought process. So that's where it comes in. The leaders of people have personalities that are completely decided by their personality traits on this 50 personality trait matrix, which will determine whether warmongers are peaceful, whatever. But this isn't just history for history's sake. After the world generation is complete, you can start the game in Legends mode. Here, people can find time digging into the life and story. Okay, so that's where I'm going to stop reading this article. So that is insane to me, right? Like, that blows my mind. There is a game out there that will simulate, okay, an entire world of 250 years. People are tracked. Civilizations interact with one another. They war with one another. They deal with one another. It's nuts that this is all something that can happen, right? And items are tracked. What's cool is that you can actually go into a list and see events that have transpired. So I remember reading on the subreddit, there was this one, they take a look at this world, and there was this one giant that had been tormenting this human civilization for like 50 years before they finally drove the giant off. It killed a ton of people. The giant didn't even die. It just moved on. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a world, right? We're going to watch the world be created before our very, very eyes. And then we're going to go through the world's history. We're going to look at the world. We're going to talk about it. We're going to look at some of the stories. And this is why I love this game. I wish I had the patience and like understanding to play this game. And there will be a day, mark my words, where I do it. But this game is also more than a game. To me, it's a storytelling tool. I can create a world right now in a few minutes, and it will be a million times different than a world you create that has different leaders warring with different social other leaders and other cultures. Just the base land that you create is going to be completely different than mine. And because we can have two totally different worlds, which is why I love survival games in general, makes me love this game. So we've been going on for 20 minutes just talking about how this is going to work. If you're patient enough to stick with me, bear with me. We're going to create a world now, and we're going to see it generated before our eyes, and we're going to dig into it. So we're going to go into create a world, and it's going to go through all this stuff right now. And it's just saying welcome to the alpha. So here's what we could do. We can actually go ahead and modify incredibly how we want this world to generate, from its size, how big the world is, the history, number of civilizations, maximum number of sites, number of beasts, natural savagery, which increases savagery, makes the world more difficult to settle, and mineral currents. We're gonna leave everything as it is. Maybe one day we can mess around with it and stuff, but when you create a world, basically, like, what happens is, like, these legendary creatures exist on day one, like these mythical creatures that are super powerful. That's what I think number of beasts is. We don't really want to worry about them because they can show up in your game and they could be awesome. So let's go ahead and hit yes. And here we go. This is the world being created before your very eyes. It's forming lakes and minerals, and it's constantly trying to figure out what it wants to do. See, it's throwing things out as we speak. I'm using a Phoebe mod pack right now, and it's that's why it looks the way it is. You can make it look like ASCII and a bunch of other things. I'm using something called Lazy Noob Pack, and that's how it's going to work. So again, it's constantly throwing things out, but it finally has everything. On the left-hand side, you can see it's gone through elevation, temperature, rivers, lakes and minerals, vegetation, terrain, wildlife, and legends. And now before our eyes, what we're seeing happen in a blink of an eye is a simulation of the world. We're in the year 86 right now, the age of myth. It's got hist figs, which I don't know what those are, how many people have died, and how many events have happened in the world so far. 60,000 events have happened. We're at year 100. We're not even halfway done. And we're seeing actual civilizations rise and fall in front of us. These little like straight lines and whatnot are all things that are happening. These little marks, these little ohm symbols, I believe are mountains or rocky areas. In fact, I kind of wish I used a different mod pack because I recognize a different mod pack a little bit better. But it's hard to tell. But I think we'll be able to go through it here in a minute. But as I want you to notice too, as we go further and further into the simulation of the world, things start to slow down because why? Every single item and every single person is tracked in this game. So because now there's more items and more people, the simulation is slowing down because it's still tracking all those things, and it's probably putting my CPU to shame right now. My CPU is probably like, Mathas, please stop. So right now, I guess we're like on the dark goblin pits of Ozlustho. I don't think we can move or anything. No, I can't even hover over anything right now. The hills of perishment, as something else is being called. In these areas, the green areas are very foresty. In those areas, you're looking at elven civilizations are within there. We have some dwarven civilizations, probably in the mountainous areas. Humans, probably kind of everywhere. And certain things, like I said, are warring. Now, I know the pink areas off to the right-hand side are, I think it's like super evil. Like it's like miasma of evil over there. So some on the left-hand side as well, which is crazy. And it looks like the little solid white lines, I believe, are rivers. And you can see even, I think the blue ends, I'm pointing at the screen as so you can see me pointing at the screen. I think the ends are also rivers. And you can see where like the rivers are going through. There's a lot of scattered islands around. And I'd be curious to see if there's anything even on those islands. I was watching Quill actually play, and he did like a northern embarkment, had to deal with like yetis and stuff that were living up there. It's crazy. And then, of course, down south, you got the hotter areas and whatnot, which is kind of cool. And I don't even know if it goes further up or not, because what ends up happening is when you actually look at the map, you have like a little marker that's showing, and the marker zooms in on that area and gives you another second look on that area, and then you can move a marker in there that'll zoom it in even further. So we're like really high above the world right now. We're really high. Oh yeah, it does go further down. And we're now in the Dwarven Mountain Halls of Kastarzeneg in the Hazy Mountain. I think, you know what I think all these brown lines are? I think all these brown lines are roads. So we're seeing roads being expanded, I think, between civilizations, if I remember correctly. Because it's been a while since I've done this. We're almost at the end of 250 years. Almost 200,000 events have happened in our world. That is only our world. You can't get this world unless I somehow upload it, which I know you can, I just don't know how. It rejected, another thing is, it rejected 16 regions before it got the region it said, yeah, this is good enough, we can do this. Which is nuts to me. That's crazy. But I do believe these brown things are roads, so these roads are probably leading to other civilizations, other towns, this, that, and the other. I'd be curious to see where they lead and what's going on. I think the pink little dots, like little dots by themselves, might be necromancer towers, which is also insane. And like, I can't even talk about like the dwarves themselves, because you kind of deal with dwarves for the most part, but the people themselves, they get, we're done. We can accept it. So we can accept it by hitting enter. It's going to offload everything now that it's got it figured out. The other thing that I love about this game that I haven't even talked about, and I really should, is the personality of the dwarves and how they're simulated in the game. In RimWorld, they're kind of simulated personalities, but these in this game, they're much, much more simulated. They have wives and families and pets and kids, and if they have a close friend die, they could become depressed. If they lose family members to goblins, this, that, and the other, they could become so depressed they go into a rage, and that could be murderous, or they could just go into their room and never, ever leave and die of starvation purely because they are so depressed of what's happened. They can have, like I said, they can have pet cats and dogs and all this other stuff. It's so insane. So if we go into here, we can actually go into the Legends viewer, which is what I want to talk about. There are two modes: Dwarf Fortress, which is what I've talked about before, where you lead dwarves into the wild and you create a new fortress and you're just trying to survive out there. Adventure, you take the role of a dwarf. I believe you could play other races as well, and you kind of play it like a roguelike where you wander the world for adventure and treasure and all this other stuff. But Legends is what we're going to use, because we're going to go in here and take a look at all the crazy things that have happened in our world. We're going to look at a couple of them, talk about them, this, that, and the other. So in our world, there were 42,396 historical figures in the 250 years. There are 1,034 sites. 475 artifacts exist in our world, which are rare, like crafted items, I believe. There's 453 regions, 243 underground regions, 1,928 civilizations and other entities, whatever that means, 694 structures, and that's that. So if we go into historical figures, let's go into historical figures. This is every single person that has lived and died within our world. Some dead, some still alive. Actually, if we take a look at the top, there is this says D, that means when they died, right? So this person, the top person, I believe, I can't tell if it's the male dragon. So we have Rab Abdullah Ishtra Shiarab, Rab Jade Heat, the Bejeweled Warmth, who's a male dragon. If we hit enter on him, we can take a look at his life throughout the world and what he's done all 250 years. So, we're just going to call him Rob Jade Heat, the Bejeweled Warmth, was a dragon. He was one of the only ones of his kind. Rob was associated with wealth and fire. So, Bejeweled Warmth, Jade Heat, all makes sense. In the year 1, he settled in the Complex Hills. In early spring 2, he attacked the Lakes of Dawning at Snarlobi, which is weird. During that attack, it looks like, the elf Ale Way Passes right upper leg was torn off. So he ripped the leg off of an elf, struck down the elf, and killed him. So he ripped his leg off, struck him down, dead. The elf Amima Strongmalard's neck was torn off by Rab. So he ripped the neck off of another elf. So he existed, and in the second year, he's like, this elven society, fuck them. I'm going to kill them. And killed them. So he killed that elf, and it looks like he just struck down elf after elf after elf after elf until Rab routed the Lakes of Dawning of the Nut of Counselors and destroyed Snarlobi. He just destroyed the entire civilization. It doesn't look like he took a single hit. In late spring 4, he became the enemy of the Tenacious Curse, which is like a civilization. Also became the enemy of the Jackal strategy. In the late spring 4, a helmet snake bone ring was stolen from Dreams Monster by Rab. So he stole a ring from Dreams Monster. That could be another creature. That could be another civilization, which is nuts. He became the enemy of a bunch of things in year 6 and devoured the human Huthra lizard respect in Beak Gorges. All right. So he obviously did a friggin' ton of shit. Look at all this stuff. This is stuff he did while the world was being simulated. Like, little things like he stole a ring was simulated. Like, that got simulated. He stole a ring. Okay, whatever. He's stealing all kinds of things, destroying things. If we take a look, I'd love to go through all of it, but I want to know if he's alive. I want to know if he's the one that died or is alive. So we're going to go to the end of his life, or the end of all of this. He's still alive. He's very much alive. He's murdering things. He's striking down. He's just going around destroying. He's doing what dragons do. He's destroying people and stealing treasure. It makes sense. So he's still alive. Okay. So he's still alive. He's not the dead one. Rob struck down the dwarf Edom channel found in the Complex Hills. The last thing he did was kill a dwarf. Did he go to war? Oh, okay. So in the year 245, the dwarf Fath Pagesons confronted him. So this dwarf was like, fuck this dragon, fuck everything he's done. I'm going to confront him. And then that dwarf died. Okay, well, he died. He literally just got struck down. And then Edom also confronted him and he died. It looks like from the year 228 all the way down to 245, creatures, dwarves, all tried to attack him. A dwarf tried to confront him. A human tried to ambush him, and he just died. Lipple sprinkle ships confronted him. Like, he just died. So he's still alive. So that's 245 years of a dragon just kind of around. So that means somebody over here died. I think a male hydra maybe died. So Eteg Edfulgurgig, so Eteg Renowned Pulp, the Snarling Gleam, who's a male hydra, died at one point. So he was one of the only ones of his kind associated with strength, rebirth, and muck. In one, he settled in the Swamp of Shoving. So he probably got created in the Swamp of Shoving. He became an enemy immediately of the large morning, the wilted weather, and he devoured a leopard. So he's existing. He's just being a hydra. He's like a hydra in a swamp, multi-heads. You know what he does? He's eating things. He's not really done anything. He's become an enemy of a bunch of places. He devoured a mule of the Council of Acting and Twit site. So he ate a mule. He ate somebody's mule, you know, and it happens. He's just still been existing. In the year 5, the elf Epev Birinerd confronted him. In 5, that elf died. So, you know, it happens. And then for 4 years, nothing happens. He's just living for 4 years, doing nothing in this world. Then he became an enemy a bunch, and he attacked a dwarf. So in year 9, he became an enemy of a couple people. Then he attacked a dwarf. Eteg fought with the dwarf. While defeated, the latter escaped unscathed. So the dwarf was defeated, but he got away. So he fought him. The dwarf was defeated. He ran. Eteg attacked the dwarf Mamuz Wallink. He struck the dwarf down, devoured the dwarf Mamuz Wallink. So he killed the dwarf and then ate the dwarf. He's just being a creature, right? He's just doing what he's doing. So it seems like for the most part, he's just kind of living his life. And people just keep confronting him and he's getting like attacked, you know, not exactly the most peaceful life in the world. If we go down, let's see what ended up, how he died. What happened? Did he get ambushed? How did his life go down? He lived all the way. But wait, maybe he's still alive. Maybe I clicked on the wrong person. It's hard to tell who died, when and where. Okay, no, he's still alive. He devoured a dog last year. Weird. Unless he came back to life at some point. Let's take a look. Looks like he's attacking a bunch of goblins at one point. I don't know. I don't see where he might have died. No. He ripped off the nose of somebody. All right. That's weird. Because it looks like... Oh, it gets highlighted. Okay. Okay, so we have... I wish I'd known that. Okay, cool. Or at least I wish I'd done that. So this female Hydra lasted 5 years before she died. Nar most matched the hoary mold of guts. Let's see what happened to her. In 1, she settled in the Responsible Hills. In Summer 5, she attacked the Wax of Titanus at Rack Meadow. She struck down an elf, and then she was struck down by a... She attacked a civilization, killed an elf, and then a grizzly bear killed her. That was her life. She got killed by a grizzly bear. A shame. All right. We'll check out one more creature, and then we'll see if we can find some dwarves, I think. See what, like, any notable dwarf lives. So there's a bronze Colossus that died in 184 and a dragon that died in 166. Let's take a look at this bronze Colossus. It was the only one of its kind. Viemba was associated with war strength and metals. Settled into the desert of Dipping. Immediately became an enemy of a ton of people. Attacked an elf. The elf's lower right back tooth was smashed by Vimeba. And then the elf Mina managed to escape from Vimeba's onslaught. So that was in the year 11. So for 11, the first 10 years of its life, it didn't really do anything. Then it became an enemy of a bunch of people. And then it attacked an elf. The elf lost its right tooth and got away. I mean, not bad for getting attacked by a Colossus. Then in the year 18, the Colossus attacked the Bells of Nature. The dwarf Eter Tumclap's tongue was smashed by this Colossus, and then it struck the dwarf down, struck down another dwarf called Vash. Poor Vash. Uvash, sorry. Vimeba routed the Bells of Nature of the Ardent Arch and destroyed Syrup Limb. So it attacked this area, routed it, destroyed it. And then it began wandering the spattered, tempted dune. I mean, if you're a Colossus that's known for war, that's understandable, right? It became the enemy of the society, attacked a bunch of people, attacked a human. It's wandering around just causing shit, is what it seems to be doing. It's striking down a bunch of people. And then in the midsummer of the year 41, it attacked the combined crypts at Syrup Limb. The dwarf Asmilstacker's upper left back tooth was smashed. Man, this thing has a thing for smashing people's tooth. My guess is that the Colossus is punching them square in the mouth. It struck down the dwarf, struck down another, struck down another, struck down 5 dwarves before it was routed. Here's the thing. This thing has killed, what looks like over 10 different dwarves and some humans, and something killed this Colossus. So it better have been badass. In the year 50, Vemba struck down the elf Elena Hoofloves in the Scattered Tempered Dune. So this elf, Elena, came to beat this thing. It confronted it. I don't see where. I'm curious. It doesn't look like the elf was from prior. It didn't have anything. It probably just heard about it and confronted it. The elf died. Not unsurprisingly. Elves are not particularly, known for their combative skills. A human Mata confronted it, struck him down. Was Mata involved in anything above? I'm curious. I don't think so. I don't think Mata was involved in anything prior, which is lucky for Mata. Alright, let's go down. So just wandering around, fighting things, becoming enemies. How did it die? Okay. Let's see. So it looks like in the year 148, it started causing problems, right? So it struck down. Alright, so it looks like it became a bunch of enemies, a bunch of people, struck down some humans. And then in 146, Vimba began wandering the Desert of Dipping. So this Colossus has been wandering the world, killing anyone it comes across, and then wandering some more. Unlike dragons, it's not really taking anything, it's just murdering. In 148, the elf Mafi confronted it. Then in 148, Vimeba struck him down. In 151, the human Eden confronted him. Vimeba fought with the human Eden. While defeated, the latter escaped unscathed, so Eden got away without being hurt. The dwarf Litast confronted Vemba, so it's like years of just being confronted. Vimeba struck down the dwarf, and then Vimeba ambushed the human Galel Spring Lulls. Vimeba struck down the human Galel Spring Lulls in the Desert of Dipping, so it killed the dwarf and then ambushed the human. An elf, Amu, confronted it, struck down the elf. Human ambushed Vimeba. Vimeba struck down the human. The elf Lilyi confronted it. The Colossus beat it, but it ran away. A dwarf did the same thing. The human Gotka confronted it, and he struck him down. And the human Thek confronted it, and got struck down. Como confronted it, got struck down, until finally, in 184, Sushath Sealing Watches confronted Vimeba, and Vimeba was struck down by the human Sushath Sealing Watches in the Desert of Dipping. So finally, after 184 years of murdering everything, Sushath Sealing Watches killed him. Let's find Sushath, and let's take a look at the life of Sushath. Sushath is what we're looking for. I don't know if we can actually, like, figure out where they are. I don't think we can organize it. So we're going to look for Sushsath, hopefully come across the person. I don't know if these are... Like, you would think that Sushsath is an important person, but it might be really hard to find what they want. Filter on string. Okay, we can actually do this. Sushsath. There he is, right there. Oh, he died. He died in 43. This is the guy, right? Sushsath. Oh, wait, maybe not. Shit. It was Sushsath sealing something? Where is he? This guy right here. He died. Okay. So he was born in 115, died in 193. It's a female. Human. Sorry. Should have said female, not human. All right. We can grab you. Okay. Wow. Rather uneventful life. So Sushsath Sealing Watches was a human born in 115. She was the eldest daughter of Uzmik Bodriddle, and Dang Quaster Drawers. She became a farmer in Tamid Sizzled, married Naganiz Rockphrase, stopped being a farmer in 135. That's not bad. How old was she there? She was like 12. And, so she was born in 115, 15, 25. So she was 20. She stopped being a farmer at 20. At 20 years old, she stopped being a farmer. That's fine. Settled in clenched pastime and became an animal caretaker at 135. In 182, so let's see, she 115, 25, 35, 45, 55, 65, 75. She was 60 years old, 60, wait a minute. She was that old? 25, 35, 45, 55, 65, 75. So she was almost 70. And she started wandering the wilds. Just wandering them. What? She has no former combat training. She was a farmer and then an animal caretaker. And then wandered the wilds. Confronted the Colossus. Was like, I've had enough of this shit. Struck down the Colossus. And then died of old age at 193. She had enough of civilization, died of old age. This farmer girl just wandered the wilds and killed this Colossus. What? That's insane. What the hell? That's nuts. How? She was a member of the Realms of Drink, a former member of the Fellowship of Apexes, and a member of the Group of Cathedrals. Alright, maybe she had a combat training or something. Let's look up her father. Deng Questadrawers. Deng Questadrawers. Alright, Deng Questadrawers. Deng Questadrawers. Male human. Let's see what he was about. Dang became an animal trainer in Transsparkle, married Uzmik, which we knew, settled in Tamesdizzled, became a ranger in Tamesdizzled, and then just died of old age. What a boring life he was. He was a ranger. That's cool. So he had a bunch of kids. So Sushsath was her eldest daughter. Then had Kara, Imi, Obu, and then had son Motto, Tequil, Eslo, and Cool. He had like 9 children. He was a busy man. In fact, his youngest son is still alive out there. And the cool thing is, you can fucking go find him. If you want to, you can go in adventure mode and find him. Also, the ring that dragon stole, you could go find that dragon, kill him, and get the ring that we saw he stole at some point. Was also a member of the Realms of Drink, etc., etc., etc. So the last thing I want to do, he was a ranger, so maybe he like trained his daughter. But let's find his wife real quick. Uzmik Bodriddle. Bodriddle, female human, died at like 83 years old. Your daughter was bound for a great thing, Uzmik. Settled in Flare Stockade, settled in Tamed Sizzle, became a fishery worker in Tamed Sizzle, married Deng, and then died of old age. She just was kind of a worker and then died. Little did you know your daughter was going to be the hero of the Dripping Deserts at the age of fucking like almost 70 and murdering a Colossus. That's nuts to me. That's nuts. She would never marry. She would never go on to marry. Such sass ceiling watches would just be a bad ass. That blows my mind. That is so fucking cool. Then we got another male human over here. Let's take a look at one person. This guy did this guy. So Uzmik Swepsiv was a human born in 62. He was of unknown parentage. So he was kind of created in the world creation at some point. He began wandering the wilds in the year 84. Settled in Tordric Clobbered. Then moved on and settled in Valley Bellies. Confronted Vanod Scoopsdeed. Fought with Vanod Scoopsdeed. Beat him. And the other guy escaped. Became the Lord of the Blanketed Band. Ruled the big figure of the Blanketed Band in Valley Bellies. And then in 126, the Giantess Ukoko quested torches. The Canyon of Jungle attacked Uzmik. And Uzmik was struck down by a Giantess in the canyon. So he just wandered around, settled, became a lord, fought with something, won, and then was killed by a Giantess. That's insane. That's bonkers to me. And this is why I fucking love this game. This is why I love this game. And we can kind of wander around and see what's going on. This is the year 1 before anything happens. And we can kind of push forward through the years and watch stuff. But I'm going to stop here. I've been going for almost an hour. This is why I love Dwarf Fortress. It's such a rich tool for storytelling and can create crazy cool worlds and has such an incredible just an idea behind it. And I'd love to learn how to play it, and maybe one day I will. Thank you for letting me nerd out for this weird video. I hope you guys loved it. I mean, this is coming from somebody who doesn't even really know Dwarf Fortress as far as mechanically, and I'm just have been enamored with it for years. It's just something I love. But thank you guys so much. I hope I've been able to spark a little bit of adventure in you, and maybe you'll go forward, check out Dwarf Fortress, and it's free. It's free to play. I'll link it in the description below, and you can go play it for yourself. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for letting me do this with you, and I'll see all of you next time. Bye-bye.